Alright, so opposed to my usual card recap so much, I'm going to talk about fights on the card, but I'm also going to use this video just to kind of express final thoughts on this season's Ultimate Fighter heavyweights. Alright, well, let's look at the card real quick. Main card was, started with Matt Mitrone, Marcus Jones. Fight went pretty much exactly like I predicted. The only difference is Marcus didn't get a sub. He took down Matt. He was pretty dominant on the ground. Matt managed to get out of it. See, my prediction had the fight ending right there. But anyways, Marcus knocked out by Matt. Marcus, too old to really have an impact in the sport. His stand-up is just that poor. I mean, the ground game is, pretty solid, but it's, after watching Mitrone and Brendan Schaub both shrug it off, it's something that I think people overrated a lot, and I don't think I overrated it as much, because I said he's got good subs, but his control is somewhat lacking. There's just too much for him to learn, and not enough time for him to do it, I think. Mitrone, who knows? I mean, in the show he showed mental weakness, but we'll see, man. Time will tell with him. I think he's still, young enough to maybe get a couple fights in the UFC as a lower tier heavyweight. Frank Edgar, Matt Veach. Edgar wins by choke, but again, proves that he really should consider 145, because looked very small compared to Veach, who's not really that large of a 155er. Houston Alexander, Kimbo Slice. Houston Alexander with a game plan. Weird. The game plan he used wasn't really the wrong one. I would say that it is indeed the way to beat Kimbo, is to hack the legs down, but you need to be able to handle the rush better, and Houston basically didn't. That's kind of it. Kimbo, what did he show? He showed his stand-up is reasonable. I would say his stand-up is at a mid-tier UFC level. He's far from an elite striker, but there are guys in the division he can outstrike. He handles leg kicks so. His wrestling is, I really don't know. Like, Alexander has decent takedown defense, and he basically ragdolled him, so it would seem he does have some wrestling, but his ground game is still highly unproven. I mean, he could not finish Alexander on the ground, and Alexander's got no ground game, and he had mount, so that's kind of all there is to say about that. He'll fight again. Obviously, depends on how UFC wants to handle him. They could keep trying to market him against fighters that will either fight him in a way that he can beat them, or they'll squash him. That's the other option. John Jones, Matt Hamill by DQ. They obeyed the letter of the law, which they often don't, which is good. I just think perhaps the rule should be slightly changed to allow for, in this case, Jones was basically winning the fight and was on his way to a stoppage, probably without the illegal elbows. I don't know, but more power to the ref maybe. But then again, we'd have Mazzagatti and Miragliotta making weird decisions, so I don't really know how to solve that problem. Anyways, it was a good call by the ref. I mean, that's the rule, is if you stop the fight via, if the fighter cannot continue after receiving an illegal strike, he wins. Basically, it's a DQ. I mean, we saw it with Louis Kane and James Irvin as well, when Kane needed down an opponent. The difference is that fight was somewhat competitive. This fight was very much John Jones, but I don't know really what you could do with it. And Roy Nelson knocks out Brendan Schaub. Surprised at the knockout, because I've never been terribly impressed with Roy Nelson's power. There's some. He's rocked certain people, so there's obviously some kind of power in his hands, but maybe some question about Schaub's chin. I don't know. This is the first time we've really seen Schaub's chin tested. I guess we'll see. Nelson's future, he'll be around a while. I mean, no UFC winner really gets cut. He's reasonably talented to the point where you could stylistically match him up to get some wins. Is he a championship you know, future champion? Probably not unless we see some, I don't want to say late career, but you know, it's a little bit late in his career to make that big metamorphosis in a contender, if you know what I mean. And he's just not that right now. People hate on him more than is warranted. I mean, he is a bit of a d-bag. And I said that, you know, well before Dana White made comments and Rashad made comments. You know, he's a bit of a guy that you perhaps wouldn't want to hang around with that much, but as a fighter, it's fine. We're bigger douchebags on this show. That's all there is to it. Schaub, you know, if you could make 205, I could see him being a force, but at heavyweight, with his kind of lackluster takedown defense, and you know, there may be some questions about his chin after Nelson knocks him out. Is he really going to do anything at heavyweight? I don't really think so, but no one but Nelson will, in my opinion. Just because Marcus is just too late in his career. No one else really showed me that X factor that I think will take them far. A lot of these guys should go down to 205. Daryl and McSweeney both should. McSweeney beat Daryl, which kind of disappointed me because McSweeney's a bit of a douche. Daryl did not look good in the fight. Neither did McSweeney. It was a very sloppy fight. I would nominate that as the most sloppy fight on the card, and it was a card that had Marcus Jones and Mitrione on it. Not the best sign in the world. But yeah, I'm not going to really do much about the undercard. So in the end, my thoughts on this season. The season in general was a letdown because, of course, a lot of the hype was for Rashad versus Rampage, which is not going to happen when we thought it would, but there's talk of Rampage coming back fighting Evans if Evans beats Thiago Silva. So the fight may happen, but it's in limbo versus, you know, a sure thing, and it's fairly far in the future if it does happen. Well, not fairly far, but it doesn't have that immediate impact of, example, the Matt Hughes, Matt Serra season. For the whole time we were looking forward to, like, 1 month after the season, it would be Hughes versus Serra. That fight didn't end up happening, but we didn't know that during the season, so the hype was still a factor. Here, it just wasn't. The fights were pretty poor, which you're going to get in a heavyweight season. There's just really no way to avoid that. You had really one addition to the UFC's heavyweight division, really, in Nelson. No one else really is going to make a splash unless they really get the marketing machine, like if they fight Kimbo at heavyweight and do the Elite XC thing. But, you know, I would hope the fans would see through that, but you never know. Other thoughts on the season? Oh yeah, we got Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz next season. That'll be better. There's some bad blood, but there's not they won't be constantly getting in each other's faces like it was this season, because that's just not really how Chuck works. Plus, I have faith that they'll fight each other. Plus, there won't be a coaching mismatch, because not that Rashad is that great of a coach compared to Rampage. I don't think he is. I think the key was Rashad brought in coaches like Trevor Whitman, like Phil Nurse, like Mike Van Arsdale, who were coaches, whereas Rampage brought in Tiki Goshen and Hector Ramirez and Tom Blackledge, who are all C-class fighters that, I mean, I've heard of Tiki coaching, but who has he coached, kind of? That was, I think, the difference. Anything else about this season? Well, that's about it. That's really about all I have to say. Props to Mark Boschek for a win on the undercard. And unfortunately, Dennis Superman Hallman takes a loss. So the Matt Hughes-Hallman fight kind of gets put off. Not really looking forward to it. Both guys past their prime. Yes, Hallman beat Hughes twice, but is Hallman's jiu-jitsu really like better than, for example, Matt Serra's jiu-jitsu? I mean, do we really think that we've gotten to the point where Hallman can still beat Hughes, even though Hughes has been terrible? That's about it. Anyways, that's all. See you later.